Hello everybody, I am Bibek Kumar and you're watching Bibek Talks. So in this video, we will be discussing about dopamine equilibrium. Before getting started to the topic, I'd just like to let you know that I am starting a whole new series in this YouTube channel where I will be posting some relevant videos like of 10 to 12 minutes, I guess, yes. And today's topic is dopamine equilibrium. Those who are waiting for the podcast, please don't worry about that. That is going to be continued as it was, okay? So let's get started with dopamine equilibrium. So what is dopamine equilibrium? If we just look at these two words individually, dopamine comes from biology sector and economics and equilibrium comes from economics. So these two are from two different sector of the life, but still I have combined them together and got a whole new topic to discuss with you all. So let us go one by one, like first dopamine, and then we will move towards the equilibrium, and then at the third portion of this video we will be combining this both at the same place, dopamine and equilibrium, and understanding what is dopamine equilibrium. Okay, so those who don't know about dopamine, let me tell you, dopamine is a kind of chemical which is released by your brain. The basic concept of the dopamine is to pass message from one corner of your brain to another corner of your brain. So that is the basic functionality of the dopamine. But if I just break down more, make it more easier for you, dopamine is a chemical which is pleasure chemical and happiness chemical as well. Because when dopamine is released in your brain, you feel a sudden, happiness at a moment, and you feel happiness, you feel satisfaction, and you are happy at a moment. Let me tell you why. Let me give you an example. I'll take the example of mine. If I post this video on YouTube, edited perfectly, posted on the YouTube, got millions of views on my YouTube video and YouTube channel as well. So at the end of that millions of views, I will be happy. I will happy, satisfied, and I will be in a sky high. So that is the reason, that is not the reason why you guys love my video and I was happy at the moment. That is all about the dopamine which has been released by my brain, which is giving me a sudden pleasure or happiness at a moment. So it can be any, the sources can be any. The sources can be internal brain, or it can come from third party, like someone entered in your life and you were happy at a moment and you got the dopamine, and it can be anything. Okay, so this is the basic concept of dopamine. I hope you got that. Dopamine is a chemical which is used to transfer message from the one brain portion of the brain to another, and it is a kind of a pleasure chemical as well. Okay, if we just move towards the another word called equilibrium. Equilibrium word comes from the economics. It is an economics word which I need to explain in bit detail because it is a new, I guess, for some of my viewers. Okay, so equilibrium is a point when two things are equal. Let me give you example. When aggregate demand and aggregate supply is equal, that is known as equilibrium. Let me give you more and break it out for you a little bit more. Okay, so a 10 kgs of potato is the demand of an economy, and 10 kgs of supply is there from an economy of potatoes. If they come equal, 10 kgs of demand, 10 kgs of supply, these are equals. So this equilibrium, this economy is in a equilibrium stage. So this is known as like equilibrium economy. Okay, so let me give you more example. Like the aggregate demand or the demand of a potato is 20 kgs per month, but the supply is only 18 kgs per month. So this economy is not in equilibrium. That is not in equilibrium because the 2 kgs of deficit is coming there. 2 kgs of more potatoes should be produced by that economy to keep it in equilibrium. Okay, so this is the concept, and it can go higher as well when the aggregate supply is too high, like 25 kgs of per month, and the demand was only 20 kgs per month. Okay, I hope you got about the dopamine and equilibrium as well. Okay, so now we'll move towards the dopamine and equilibrium. Dopamine equilibrium, we are connecting these two words together now, so this is the fun part. Dopamine equilibrium, let me just show you some of the figures. This is figure 1 and this is the figure 2. This figure 1 have a little bit of correction to be done, and in this figure 2 you can see I have made the corrections. You can clearly see this both figures and find the which one is the perfect one. So in this, let us see the first figure where you can see the dopamine is going high, coming down, and there is a straight line in the between. So that straight line is known as the baseline. And this baseline can be different for every person to person. It can be different for you, it can be different for me. Okay, I'll tell you what is baseline at the end. So you can see high dopamine, low dopamine, and there is a baseline. Okay. So if you just move towards this interesting second figure, you can see high dopamine, low dopamine, and there is a between a range is there. Okay, not a line, there is a range. Please focus on my words. There is a range, not a line. Okay, so range means where at this point you can play, you can play in this range. Just imagine you have a straight rope and you have to walk on that straight rope. That's very hard for the humans to walk on that rope. But if I give you a wider rope, let us replace this rope with a plate, or a wooden plate where you can walk easily. Which one is harder for you to walk, in this pencil, in this pen, or in this flat surface? uh, that's very easy for you to walk on this flat surface. So this is the reason I have replaced this figure with this one, where you can see there is a straight line and there is a box or a range, you can say, where that is a bit wider, where you can play very safe game. Okay, so this was my first exception, and that was my first thinking of my dopamine equilibrium. But this has been modified with a little bit with my guest, who is my recent guest, called Glenn Daniel. He just told me when I just was discussing with him about the dopamine equilibrium in the latest podcast. So he told me, hey Bibek, humans are, it is very hard for the humans to be on that straight line. Why don't you make it a bit wide? Why don't you make it a bit wide? So that's gonna help you a lot. I thought, yes, he's absolutely right. So I converted this figure to this one. Okay, so let us see what is actually this figure says. You can see a dopamine high, a dopamine low here, and a dopamine equilibrium. Let us go one by one: dopamine high, dopamine low, and dopamine equilibrium at the end. Okay, so dopamine high means when your aggregate supply is high. The potato is 25 kgs, but the demand is 20 kgs only. Let me tell you, if per day you need 10 units of dopamine to be happy, but your brain is producing 25 units of dopamine, so that is known as high dopamine, higher dopamine, more than the baseline. So there are many kind of reasons can be there for the high dopamine. Some special person sitting next to you on the classroom, and doing the work, like studying with a special person throughout the day, that can be a reason. Playing, or alcohol, smoking, drinking, these are the things which make you in high dopamine. And okay, so this is the reason of high dopamine. So high dopamine is very dangerous, and low dopamine is also very dangerous. I'll tell you why. Okay, so high dopamine can be very dangerous because when that third, and before getting to the dangerous part, let me tell you that high dopamine is always produced by your brain when there is an involvement of third party. Your own brain, your own natural brain will never produce that high dopamine. It needs 20 units of dopamine per day, it will only produce 20 units per dopamine. But why it is producing 25 units per dopamine, Vivek? Then you might ask me. That is just that 5 unit of extra dopamine is produced by your brain just because of that special person or alcohol or smoking you are doing entire day, which is leading you towards the dopamine. There can be some certain chemicals or certain feelings which are influencing you to produce 5 units of more dopamine. So that is very dangerous because that is not a permanent source of dopamine. One day the smoke, your smoke or your alcohol is not going to last long infinity. It is going to end someday, and the day it is going to end, your dopamine graph from here, it's coming right towards the bottom to the low dopamine, and this sudden change is very, very dangerous for you. So this is the reason I always say be on the equilibrium dopamine. You don't have to go too high, you don't have to go too low. Let me tell you what is too low. Low dopamine or low level dopamine. Low level dopamine is something when you are not you are not happy. You don't love to study, but still you are studying. You are bored, you don't want to do that, you just want to tear your book and just move towards another thing. At that moment your brain is not producing the dopamine, but still you are doing the work, you're accomplishing the work, but still that is not producing the dopamine. So that is the reason you are under dopamine, and you don't have to be under dopamine. You have to be at the equilibrium dopamine. So equilibrium dopamine means the brain needs 20 units of dopamine, and your brain is producing 20 units of dopamine. So that is equilibrium point. And how you achieve that equilibrium point, let me tell you that as well. Please do the things which you love. I love to make videos. I'm making videos. And but still, all the things which you don't like in your life, you cannot remove that. Like, I don't like too much of studies, but I cannot remove studies completely, because I know that is important for my life. So you need to love that thing. You need to create some of the conditions where you fell in love with studying. It can be with your favorite teacher, or it can be watching some videos rather than reading the book directly. You can watch some videos to make you, to make you feel like good to study. So these are some of the tricks you can do to keep yourself on the dopamine equilibrium, and that is very, very important to be on dopamine equilibrium. And please never let other people to influence your dopamine level, because once that people is gone from your life, your dopamine will come from here to here. I hope you got that point. So that sudden change will be very dangerous for you. So yes, this was the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the video and found some point, and it was relevant for you. I didn't wasted your time. And yes, thank you so much. Please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and hopefully you're going to share this video. If you find any point in my words, please share this with your fellow classmates and fellow friends, so that they also get some knowledge. Okay, thank you so much, and happy dopamine equilibrium.